Good evening, you're watching No Spin. I'm Nidhi Razdan. High drama in the Tamil Nadu Assembly today as in an unprecedented move, Governor TN Ravi skipped part of the address prepared by the government, which included references to secularism, Ambedkar and Dravidian leaders. A furious Chief Minister MK Stalin then moved a resolution asking the Speaker to take on record only the speech prepared by the state government. The governor then stormed out in a huff just moments before the national anthem was supposed to play out. Now remember, there is a convention where the governor, like the President of India, makes an address to the assembly, like the President does to Parliament, which essentially reflects the government's agenda. But this was an unprecedented break with that convention today by the governor, Mr. Ravi, who decided to omit certain passages that the government had prepared and include his own. Meanwhile, this slogan shouting took place by DMK MLAs while the governor was speaking. They were particularly angry when he suggested a new name for the state of Tamil Nadu.
சட் மன்ற தேர்வையின் முதல் கூட்டத்தில் என் உரையை.
Well, let's go straight across to our panelists this evening. This is what we are seeing is an increasing conflict between governors and elected governments. It's been happening particularly in southern states. We've seen it happen in Kerala, in Telangana, in Tamil Nadu. We've seen it happen in Bengal earlier. Of course, the fight between the Delhi government and the LG here is now infamous, but it has been happening more and more between governors and opposition ruled states. Let me go first across to Professor Faizan Mustafa, a constitutional expert joining us on the program tonight. Professor Mustafa, just to put it into perspective for our viewers, this is a convention, isn't it, whereby the governor basically goes by the speech given by the government. So today's move by Governor Ravi was quite a break with that tradition.
Nidhi, you are right. We have adopted the parliamentary democracy of British style. And in this democracy, governor or the monarch, they are not supposed to rule. They are supposed to reign. And Supreme Court has said in Shamsher Singh versus State of Punjab that we declare that the governor and the president in India would be the nominal head. So when the governor says, my government did this, my government plans to do this, he is basically supposed to read the speech which has been sent to him by the Chief Minister's office. So no governor is supposed to skip the portions which the government has sent. What governors in such situation, when they are at loggerheads with the chief minister do, they would read one or two first lines where you will have welcome and this and that, and then they will say that the speech should be considered as read. But this is an unprecedented situation where the governor moved out of house, and that too prior to the national anthem. Somebody who has taken the oath to preserve and protect and defend the Constitution ideally should go by the spirit of the Constitution. But the problem is bigger, and I have been writing, Nidhi, on this, that why our governors do so. Our governors do so because they don't have security of tenure. They hold office during the pleasure of the president, which means the pleasure of the ruling party at the center. Even an IAS officer cannot be removed without the due process of law and inquiry, but a governor can be removed, in a minute's time.
That's an interesting point. That's an interesting point, and I'll come to that in just a moment. But as you say here, clearly you feel that the spirit of the Constitution was not upheld. We have Mr. S.G. Surya from the Tamil Nadu BJP, spokesperson of the Tamil Nadu BJP, joining us as well. Mr. Surya, I just wanted to ask you, we also saw some very angry sloganeering by DMK MLAs against the governor while the governor was speaking, which the BJP has taken strong objection to. But I think the point here is that, the governor's office has been so politicized for so long now that this is being seen as a battle between the BJP, aka the governor on one hand, and opposition parties, in this case the DMK on the other, which I'm sure you would agree is not good for democracy.
Certainly, these acquisitions always happen. Even during the UPA 10 years tenure, there were always allegations of governors being the mouthpiece of the then central government. So, without going into that, I would like to go into the merits of today's proceedings that happened in the assembly. Like you said, there was a pre-planned agenda with which the DMK MLAs, even before the governor had started his speech, they went into the well of the house and they started sloganeering and etc. So, I would like to clarify two things. I am not the spokesperson for the governor, so I cannot speak from his eyes. But I can assure you that he had omitted certain portions because there were factual inaccuracies in the speech given by the state government. For example, the state government speech says, because of the efforts of the state government, so and so number of fishermen were released from the Sri Lankan government, which is absolutely incorrect because the Ministry of External Affairs handles the cases when it regards to other nations. The External Affairs Minister had made it very clear in the floor of the parliament. The fishermen from Sri Lanka are released not because somebody writes a letter from the Chennai, but because the MEA takes actions to release those fishermen from the Sri Lankan prisons. So, these factual inaccuracies were something which the governor omitted. There were even more ideological disagreements between the BJP and the DMK government, like the NEET, like the EWS. Those portions were read verbatim by the governor as given by the state government. So,
if there was something he felt was factually inaccurate, I don't know how this works, but surely that could have been sorted out before the assembly session? And not to be omitted on the floor of the House?
Yes,
I mean, the clarification could have been sought. Also, what was the factual inaccuracy about referring to secularism and Ambedkar and so on, and Dravidian leaders?
See, there is a bigger factual inaccuracy because the speech says, following the model of certain leaders, and it has Kamaraj in it, and proceeds with the word Dravidian model. Kamarajar was some leader who fought against this Dravidian parties throughout his life until his death. So there is an oxymoron when you have Kamarajar and Dravidian model in the same sentence. Now to the question you asked, there is a reply from the governor's office which is now being flashed by the Tamil media, which says the governor has raised objections to certain portions, to which the state government has answered. The books are already being printed and the governor can modify the content that he wants. And the governor office also says they have proof of this happening between the chief minister's office and the governor's office. We anyhow need to wait for the official version from both the people regarding the same.
Okay, I do appreciate you giving us some breaking news on the governor's statement as we're on air, so thank you for that and bringing us up to date on that. But we have Mr. Salem Dharanidharan from the DMK joining us as well. Mr. Dharanidharan, do you want to just sort of come in on that? And also, you know, these were rather sad scenes to see on the floor of the assembly. On one hand, the governor breaking precedent and omitting sections of his speech, but on the other hand, to see DMK MLAs also shout him down, shout slogans, it was sad. Wouldn't you agree, Mr. Dharanidharan?
See, I think we should not look into today's incident in an isolated manner. Rather, I would, before going into today's incident, I want to focus on three things. The first thing is the behavior of this particular governor. So how has this particular governor been behaving since the last 1 year? He's been acting as the RSS ideologue. He's been telling that people, there is no Dravidian Aryan divide. When we had a committee on NEET, when world has accepted, when philosophers and the social scientists in the West have accepted that entrance exam are antithesis of the concept of merit, he comes and tells something to the contrary, saying NEET is good for social justice and so on and so forth, which is not his job. He has kept 21 bills on hold. Like the Professor Mustafa said, we are in a Westminster system where the monarch is equal to the governor. Have you ever seen the then Queen or now the King ever putting any bill in abeyance in Britain? However nonsense the bill could be, it has to be passed. So these are the issues.
I know it's been building up. My point is that has it come to a sort of a breaking point where, you know, constitutional norms also now are not are just being given a go by?
Yeah, that's where I'm coming there. And another point is, how are the governors of non-BJP state behaving? So we have seen in West Bengal, we have seen in Telangana, we have seen in Kerala, everywhere the governors are in loggerheads with the incumbent government. When in Maharashtra, when the MVP was in power, the speaker was not allowed to be appointed for more than a year. Then some version of Shiv Sena came to power in alliance with BJP. Immediately the governor was appointed. The speaker was appointed. So this is the problem here: the arbitrariness of the governors.
Okay. Let me get Shadhan Farasat as well, advocate with the Supreme Court. Shadhan Farasat, what is your take on this? Because it is a bigger problem. It's not about Tamil Nadu alone. I was pointing out just a handful of states where we have seen rather unseemly confrontations between the state governments and the governors concerned. So this is a wider issue here about what powers the governors have and whether many of them are now actually overstepping their line.
Yes, this is a wider issue. I think conventionally what used to happen during the Congress era, the problem used to be the governor in calling which government to form when there was not a clear majority. So precedence, and sometimes precedence rule was imposed. That was the level of misuse of the governor's office which used to happen during Congress era and historically in India. Now what we are seeing is a complete acceleration of the process, even in which basic requirements which are understood and in constitutional text as part of constitutional conventions are being violated by the governors or lieutenant governors left, right and center. That's what is happening. The governor had no business. It's a requirement. A presidential address or an address of a governor to a legislature is absolutely every word has to be as per what the elected government says. Why? Because then the opposition, there is a whole mechanism in the legislature that the opposition responds to that address. So it's essentially the government's words through the governor's mouth. And the opposition then responds to that. So if there is a factual inaccuracy...
So when the BJP says that there were factual inaccuracies...
Correct. So let's assume there is a factual inaccuracy. Right. The opposition can point it out on the floor that this was an error in the governor's address. The speech on the floor of the house, be it of the governor or be it of every member, is fully protected. There are no restrictions at all. That's in fact, it's completely without any restrictions. Speech on the floor of the house, complete free speech. So the governor had no business to actually change even a single word. He had to follow it. And the larger point, the question which you have raised, what is happening is, it is deeply political and it's completely anti-constitutional. What is happening is where the BJP is not in power, in states where it is not in power despite its political attempts, it is trying to control those states through the office of the governor. Be it West Bengal, be it Tamil Nadu, be it Delhi, be it Telangana. And that's why you are seeing this kind of behavior of the governor, which is completely not just against constitutional convention. You pitched it on constitutional convention. It's against constitutional text. It's against settled case law. It's against every norm. So I am just completely shocked. And what will happen if this kind of action continue is that governance in states is going to collapse. It's absolutely shocking.
I think you raise an important point, and I'm going to get the BJP, Mr. Surya, to respond in just a moment. We have Kovai Satyam of the AIADMK also joining us. Sandhya Ravi Shankar, senior journalist, is also with us as well. Kovai Satyam, just to get your thoughts. I mean, I know the AIADMK is the opposition, but on the issue of for the following of constitutional norms, case laws, etc., as Shadhan Farasat was pointing out, are you not concerned as a democratically elected party that there is a wrong precedent possibly being set here?
Wrong precedent can be in detail explained by the respective people who claim so. But today, Tamil Nadu's leading actor, Mr. MK Stalin, miserably failed to enact a narrative that will suit him as well as his party in the run, thus by giving the credit Tamil Nadu, the biggest disrepute he has given to Tamil Nadu state, Tamil Nadu people and the assembly. After completion of the governor's address, he is trying to dilute Article 17 and bringing a resolution and a motion against the governor while he is on the floor. That shows that the flouting of norms on whatever means and ways the DMK can stoop low to suit their narrative. And you cannot expect somebody to be your brand ambassador of data and figures filled with lies. DMK, they give the credit to themselves as saying that Mr. Stalin is the #1 CM in India. Nobody knows who gave that award. They say we are the #1 in all. Nobody knows what it is. They say Dravidian model.
But you will get a chance to respond to that. As the opposition, you would have got a chance to respond to that.
Brand ambassador
but tomorrow when you're in power in Tamil Nadu, and if a governor tomorrow does that to your government, are you not concerned? I'm asking about a bigger precedent that may be being set here?
If you can give me a 30-second, I
Yeah.
can explain what transpired today. And a governor address and the assembly sessions are minuted. It's not that it happens at unorganized way. What time the governor starts the address, what time it gets over, and who is next, what's going to happen next, when is the national anthem, it's all minuted and documented. Governor completed his speech on time, and he was waiting while the CM stood and he was thinking that he's going to give a valedictory address, and suddenly he says that I'm going to dilute the Article 17, I'm going to bring in a resolution against the governor. He doesn't understand Tamil. For 5 minutes, he was patiently waiting, and suddenly he calls his associate and asks what's happening. That's why the associate briefs him saying that he is bringing a resolution against you in this floor by flouting the norms to suit his political narrative. That's where he chose to walk out. And the narrative set outside is the governor didn't wait for the national anthem and bringing disrepute to the assembly.
You're saying the perpetrator in this case is the DMK. Sandhya Ravishankar, what does that say about what is happening not just in Tamil Nadu but in other states as well? In your view, this is clearly, do you see this as a sort of a political battle? Actually, Shadan gave a good sort of political analysis of this, where it seems to be battle lines between the BJP and the opposition.
Well, I'm not very sure whether you can, combine, you can say this about all of the states where an opposition party is in power. But I can definitely tell you about Tamil Nadu, and I have only two things to say. The first is that this is perhaps the lowest that we have seen in the Tamil Nadu Assembly, and this is the second worst incident that has taken place since, Ms. Jayalalitha was disrobed and harassed in the Assembly during the time of Mr. Karunanidhi. Now, this is the second time that such terrible scenes have been witnessing, and I personally, as a journalist working in Tamil Nadu, as a voter, I am very ashamed about it. The second point I wanted to make is that the DMK is absolutely phenomenal in terms of creating and building narratives, and each time there is a problem. Look at all the promises that the DMK had made before the election. They will abolish NEET. They will give 1,000 rupees to every housewife. All sorts of promises which they knew they could not fulfill, and they have not fulfilled this so far. I have done stories on how flawed the Arumugam Commission, commission was that looked into NEET, and the law that was based on NEET was based on an absolutely flawed, rubbish commission report. And I cannot believe that a governor has to pass any rubbish legislation that is brought into the assembly, that is passed by the assembly, and that is
I disagree. Can I add on?
So let her finish, Mr. Dharanidharan. Let her finish. Okay, yes, go ahead.
Dharanidharan has probably not read my reports. I would suggest that he read it before he counters. Anyway, the point is that the DMK is facing a lot of issues at home. They have law and order issues. There was recently a terror, a near miss of a terror attack that has taken place. A gas cylinder blast has taken place. The NIA has arrested a whole bunch of people who are linked to various terror outfits. It is not a safe haven. There are murders happening. Women are being assaulted.
No, but the point is about the governor's address.
The point, Nidhi, that I'm trying to make is that when things go south for the DMK, they start a new distraction. They start a fight with the governor, or they start a
So you're saying the DMK is instigating this battle with the governor, but isn't the governor holding back on legislation? Isn't the governor also? I mean, isn't this happening both ways actually?
Well, you can say the governor is holding back on legislation, but what I have just mentioned is the NEET bill, for instance. The NEET bill is absolutely, entirely, legally and in every way flawed. The commission was flawed. The data is flawed.
Look, actually, you raise an interesting point. I just want to ask, Shadan Farasat, this quick question before I get the DMK to respond. That, what happens in a situation where a governor, let's say, for whatever reason, whether you agree or disagree, will think that a legislation is flawed, for example. And Sandhya Ravishankar has given a whole host of examples. Does the Constitution allow for the governor to sort of, to put this as crudely as possible, have a mind of his or her own on these issues?
So what a governor would do in a situation like that, he should get, if there is one thing is, there is an issue of what he feels is right or wrong, that he really cannot do much about. It's the legislature's view, he has to go with it. If there is a question of, say, prima facie unconstitutionality in a legislation which has been passed, not in the terms of violation of fundamental rights, but in terms of competence, that the legislature didn't have competence or exceeded the competence, then he should get a view of an independent constitutional expert, maybe a few experts, consult them in a formal manner, and get their view, and then put that view back to the legislature. And then the legislature, if it were to change its view based on what the governor's concerns are, then that's fine. But if it reiterates again, then the governor is obliged to, in effect, go ahead with approving the legislation. And then that will be tested in a court of law. Governor is not a judicial authority to determine, constitutionality of a legislation. We have effective courts, we have High Court and Supreme Court, we'll challenge it and we'll get an answer. I mean, governors will now be executive also, they'll be running day-to-day governments also, they will be judiciary also. So, I mean, what is the function of other organs of the government? All of them should be wrapped up.
I just want to ask Faizan Mustafa that do you agree, Faizan Mustafa, that there is a larger sort of collision course that we could be on, in different, so with the governor's office on one hand, opposition states on the other. Where is this going to take us?
No, it looks very ugly, and probably any political party may be trying to justify its actions. So there may be some truth that DMK is overplaying it. After all, any government should respect the head of the state, and head of the state as governor should respect the head of the government. So there is some kind of trust deficit. But what Farasat is saying, if you have 50 bills, I would understand that a governor may return 35 bills, say that these are the points on which you reconsider it. And absolutely as per constitution, if after the reconsideration, same bills are sent again, then he has no choice, he has to assent it. This has happened with the Office of the Prophet Bill. Kalam as president has sent it back and then he had to sign it. Now remaining 15 bills, if he sends it to the president, one can understand. But a governor cannot forever sleep over the bills.
Yeah. I think that's an important point.
Bring the administration of the state stand still. That's not the spirit of the constitution.
So Mr. Dharanidharan, I've got 30 seconds. Do you want to quickly respond to some of the criticism that the DMK is facing on its role in this confrontation?
Firstly, as Sandhya says, it's not true. As per Justice Nayaswar Reddy and Perarivalan case, the justice made it very clear, the Supreme Court made it very clear that governor is nothing but mere shorthand expression of the State Council of Ministers. So even if the bill is rubbish, he is bound to sign and he is bound to sign it. He has one option, that is he can send it back to us, but if he still send it back to him, he has to sign it. So that's what the constitution says. Second, DMK is doing an amazing job. If you look, ease of doing business, Tamil Nadu was ranked 17.
Well,
now immediately after
that's
party
a separate story. I'm just focusing on this confrontation, and you get a chance, I'm sure, to highlight your achievements elsewhere. I'm completely out of time today. I think this is an important.
She ridiculed the party without knowing any
she's a journalist who's just making a certain point and making a political analysis from her perspective. But I have to leave it at that today. This is a much bigger issue. I think we need to focus on it. It is worrying to see this kind of confrontation between the office of governor on one hand and democratically elected governments on the other. That's it for tonight. We'll see you again tomorrow. Goodbye.